H. Nguyen, 53, business owner in Hudson County, New Jersey. I voted for Ross Perot in 1992 because my dad thought Bill Clinton resembled Bruce Willis, not serious enough for the presidency. In 2008, I read about 20% of Obama's book in a bookstore. The writing was convincing, honest, personal. He's from Chicago and I attended the University of Chicago, so I voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012, despite watching only 20 minutes of debates both years. Why waste time watching debates? I have better things to do. While 2008 was the most exciting election in my lifetime, I think 2016 is the most educational. I finally learned that we are not a democracy, but a republic. Rigging an election is real. Just look at what Deborah Wasserman Schultz did to Bernie Sanders, and also the 2000 election. No presidential candidate is perfect. Both Trump and Hillary oppose TPP while supporting fair trade. Trump will renegotiate trade deals, and Hillary will enforce existing trade deals. Trump's approach is the moral thing to do. But Hillary supports gun control and taxes on the very rich, as well as a $12 minimum wage, which is the moral thing to do. Illegal Mexicans and other immigrants are being taken advantage of by employers and others. That's why some immigrants have returned to their countries while those staying are not necessarily happy. We should be honest with them, and with Americans affected by them. Coming from Asia where there is no such thing as open borders, I think Trump is sensible here. Who has more imperfection? I'm looking for signs to show me to reject someone. Sammy Hollingshead, 23, photographer, Columbus, Ohio. It's down to Trump or Clinton. I was eligible to vote in the last election, but I chose not to. I was a little naive. With the way the system is set up, and the Electoral College, I thought that my vote didn't matter. But now I realize, 4 years later, that a lot of people fought for the right to vote, and I should exercise the right to vote. I plan on voting in this election. I'm excited about it, but not very excited about the candidates. It kind of sucks to go into your first election and not be excited about the candidates. I'm not leaning more than 50% toward a candidate. Growing up, my parents always sided more with Republicans, and that has had an influence on me. But I don't classify myself as a Republican or Democrat. I vote for a candidate, not a party. My dad has pretty much made up his mind. He's going to vote for Trump. My mom is pretty much the same as me, very undecided. I think she'll side with Trump, but I also think she could go either way at this point. John Kasich, I was a big fan of his. Coming from the Columbus, Ohio, area, you're familiar with his work. You're familiar with what he's done. He classifies himself as a Republican, but he's very open to the other party's views. I'm hoping in 4 years he'll return and I'll have the opportunity to vote for him then. Hillary Clinton has a lot of pros. She's been in the White House, and held different political roles throughout her life. She knows what she's signing up for, which is comforting to know. She has a lot of policies that will be good for education and children, which I'm all for. But she's had a shady past. She's made some wrong decisions. You put her in a role where she's going to be making the toughest decisions. You want to make sure she has a clean track record. She doesn't, necessarily. Trump? To be honest, I was quite shocked he made it this far. Coming from a Republican family, it's nice to see someone who is going to support businesses and the working man. But his cons are blatantly obvious. He's got a loud mouth, and he says things that are derogatory to a lot of different people. When you're the leader of the free world, you can't run your mouth that way. When I watched the Access Hollywood video, as a woman and as a human, you hear those comments and you hope nobody talks like that. But I understand that people do talk like that. It's become part of our culture. There's women that talk about men like that. It might be the day before when I make up my mind. I like to sit down and go over what I'm passionate about, and what I want, and which candidates offer what I want. It's still a week out. There are a lot of decisions to be made, things for them to say that could change my vote either way. Jeremy Height, 25, nonprofit fundraiser in Indianapolis. Most of my voting life, I've voted Republican. A lot of my thinking was determined by having coming from a few generations of Republicans. I'm a pretty active Protestant Christian. On things like the debate over abortion, I've always fallen into the pro-life camp. That has impacted my voting trend probably up until the last 2 years. Since then, I've trended more to the Democratic Party because of the emphasis on helping those in poverty. The abortion debate is over, regardless of your opinion of it. I don't see it as something that's changing. I've come to be pro-life all the time, meaning no exceptions from the cradle to the grave, an ethic which I don't think either party holds to, but I'm as much against the death penalty as I am against abortion. And the death penalty is where I see more hope for policy change in the coming years. My opinion, if you spend time studying the God who is presented in Scripture, you more often than not find a God who cares about the condition of those in need, and, in a few places, it talks about caring for the widows and the orphans and those in a foreign land. When it comes to people from a foreign land, at least right now, the rhetoric of the Republican Party doesn't line up with that. Neither party perfectly represents what I would want on illegal immigration reform that's maybe a little bit more inclined to be welcoming to immigrants and refugees and those of all religions. I am not voting to recreate a Christian nation. I don't see that as necessary or as something that we ever truly had. But I want to vote for as welcoming and loving a society as I can. The way I differentiate between Trump and Clinton is you have an unpredictable liar and a predictable liar. I like a little bit of predictability. One of the benefits that Clinton has is that she comes across as more presidential as it's been defined over the last number of presidencies. She has experience. For Trump, I appreciate his ability to call out corruption within politics. That's one of the biggest things that people my age liked about Bernie Sanders. I appreciate that about him, maybe not the methods that he uses to do that. In the May primary, I voted for Ted Cruz. The Democrat primary was wrapped up. I made the pragmatic case that I was voting against Trump. I greatly appreciated several of the policy stances as well as the demeanor of John Kasich. Knowing that no politician is going to fully represent me on the political spectrum, he was the one I was most interested in. It seemed like he was the only parent in a room full of squabbling children. I don't know what I'm going to do. Marianne Thorpe, 52, doctor and healthcare IT consultant, Florida. I grew up a Democrat in North Carolina, and almost as soon as I hit the state line of Florida when I moved here 20 years ago, decided to be a Republican, partly because of the history of the party, being the party of Lincoln, but also because Jeb Bush was around in those days as the governor. I liked what he was doing. I actually served as chief medical officer of the state of Florida when Jeb was the governor. Jeb liked policy. One of the things that is driving me crazy in this election is it's turned into a popularity contest. Survivor, election 2016. Instead of talking about whether we're going to keep Obamacare, we're talking about all these side issues. Anytime Jeb runs, he has my vote. I've followed Hillary through the years with HillaryCare, and I'm not a big fan of the single-payer system. I know we need competition to drive up the quality of care and drive down the cost of care. I have an open heart, and I love to help people. That's part of what it means to be a physician. But at the same time, you have to pay for these things. That's why I tend to be a fiscal conservative. With Hillary, at least I feel like,